Hey guys, meteorologist Chris Tomer here. This is the On the Snow Before You Go forecast, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you get notified when my latest forecasts come out. We're going to jump into this first with the spider chart so you get a good overview of what I'm seeing here for the next 5 to 7 days. Best odds of snow, that's what you're looking at. So more purple, higher on the web, better odds of new accumulating snow. So who do we have? Well, it's a lot of Colorado. You can see a lot of the resorts are very high on the web here. You've also got parts of Montana higher up on the web. You've also, so there's Big Sky, Whitefish, even Schweitzer and northern Idaho. A little ribbon of the Pacific Northwest, mainly the Washington Cascades. And then even up in the Northeast, like Killington and Stowe, up to Jay Peak, Mount Tremblant, all a little higher on that the spider web for this forecast period. Let me show you my bullet points here. Here's what I'm looking at. Sort of the big points. We are setting up what's going to be a very windy northwest flow pattern all the way through Thanksgiving, and then of course beyond that through this upcoming weekend as well. Few cold fronts are going to come racing through this on this northwest flow pattern, and there are a couple of different cold fronts, and they do have a bit of Arctic air with them. The first one's 28 into 29. And the second one potentially 11:30 into 12:1. So we'll see snow accumulation with both and colder air. And that's what we've needed now for so long across the West is colder air. That really helps with the efficiency of snow production in the atmosphere. Here are your best odds of accumulating snow for Colorado, Tahoe, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and interior BC. So here's how you read it. In Colorado, light snow afternoon, evening of 11:26. That's the northwest flow, just kind of squeezing it out over the Front Range high peaks like Loveland, Arapahoe Basin, Keystone would be included in that. Winter Park, a lot of the Indian Peaks, Rocky Mountain National Park. So, and then the better snow comes with these Arctic fronts, late 28 to 29, and then moderate accumulations on 12:30. Now in Utah, you've got some snow coming afternoon, evening 28 into the morning of 29, light to moderate accumulations, and then moderate to heavy on 11:30. I won't go through all those dates, but obviously you can see those, read into those if you need to see what days offer the best potential. Let's look at pressure anomalies. So this is up at about 18,000 feet in the atmosphere. We'll start this on Thanksgiving, Thursday, 11/27. So lower than normal pressures across the Great Lakes, all of the Northeast. What we're going to find with this is much colder air sweeping in across the Great Lakes and basically forcing the development of some lake effect snow. So we're going to see some heavy bands come off Lake Erie and Lake Ontario during that period. Now across the west, higher than normal pressures, so basically just high pressure in control. 11:29, so this is the first of those Arctic cold fronts. You can see it right here with the lower than normal pressures. It's blowing through and colder air is filtering in behind it, so we'll have some snow with that and a big drop in temperatures across the Intermountain West. The final phase is 12:1. This would be the second front. You can basically see it right here with the drop in pressures. And there's an actual area of low pressure right there. And that has kind of been trending a little bit further to the south. And so that's going to run through here and potentially drop some decent accumulations. And some of the numbers have trended up a little bit in the Wasatch. I'll show you those coming up. And western and southwest Colorado, I've definitely seen a trend up in some of the snow amounts there as a result of that pattern through 12:1. All right, let's look at rolling. This is total accumulation over a 5-day period. So it runs us all the way through this upcoming weekend. This is as if it was all falling as rain. Now, notice early in the period, the flow is way up here. It's way up here, and it's all north of that line. But then the dam breaks, and the northwest flow starts to curl down. And that's the key. It starts to deliver these waves, these cold fronts, into parts of Utah, into Colorado, into Wyoming. The key breakpoint area I look for are the yellows, the yellow shades. Those represent about an inch of liquid. That's about a foot of snow. So you can see how the flow starts north, and then the whole thing, the dam breaks and it comes to the south. Change the vantage point. Here's your southwest viewpoint. Pretty dry early on. There's nothing until very late, 11:30 into 12:01, and watch it again. Here it comes, boom, right there. And then that delivers snow, or rain in this case, but it would be falling as snow once you make the conversion. So here it is, 10-to-1 snow ratio, 5-day total snow. So where you see the deep purple, that's going to be at least 6 inches. The bright pink would be a foot, and if you see whites, that's 2 feet. But notice the pattern, northwest flow, and that's what delivers the snow. Now eventually, dam breaks and we start to see everything track a little bit further to the south. Let's change the vantage point again to the southwest. Notice very dry initially. Then we start to see some accumulation, especially across southwest Colorado. Look at that. That's a foot at least. Numerous locations are going to be at a foot if this plays out, if this verifies. Here's my official forecast. These are grand totals by the close of business on 11:30. So 5 to 10 in the Wasatch. Higher end amounts, Little and Big Cottonwood Canyon. 4's down here, Bryan Head and Snowbowl. I'm going to zoom into Colorado in a second. We'll investigate that. I've got 4 to 8 up here from Red Lodge, Big Sky to Grand Targhee and Jackson Hole. And potentially some 10s at Bridger, Snowbowl, and Whitefish. I like that. And most of the snow in Idaho is Brundage North. Not a lot up here for the heart of interior BC and Alberta. The flow shifts to the south and away. It should catch some of Red Mountain and Fernie a little bit. And then if you're in Washington State, you're probably in for 4 to 12 inches in the high Cascades. Alyeska looks really good, at least a couple of feet. And really not much of anything for California, unfortunately. All right, zooming into Colorado, here are the numbers. Again, grand totals by the close of business on 11:30. So I've got 10s up here. Most of the Front Range high peaks in the ski areas, Loveland, A Basin, Winter Park, Cameron Pass, Steamboat, Vail, Copper. I think at the beginning what we're going to find is a pretty stout northwest flow pattern, and that'll help to crank out some of that accumulation. And then what we'll find is potentially with those other fronts, we'll add some additional accumulation to that. Now, the western slope, all of these numbers have all trended up now. Crested Butte, Aspen Snowmass, Powderhorn, Telluride, Silverton, Wolf Creek, Purgatory. They've all been, I bumped most of them up in the last couple of days. Now looking at potentially 8 to 14 inches of accumulation in that corridor, 3 to 6 in northern New Mexico. So there's kind of a break point. You have a surge here in this sector, and then late, that second Arctic front surges in to southwest Colorado. All right, let's look at the northeast. A few different waves here, and there's quite a bit of lake effect. Look at that. So deep purple is going to be at least 6 inches. Bright pink is going to be a foot, and there's some locations on here that definitely hit a foot. Boy, look at that lake effect coming off of Lake Michigan, too, into Grand Rapids. Even Detroit could get snow. Snow into Erie, PA, downwind of Buffalo, the south towns there. And then you've got, obviously, Tug Hill Plateau, Snow Ridge, up to Lake Placid. And some decent snow here, northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, and up towards Mount Tremblant. Here are my numbers. Grand totals through, or by the close of business on 11:30, I've got a foot. I think it's possible. I think there's going to be a little bit of a rain-snow issue early in the period at the base areas. But I think if you're higher up, it may fall as mainly snow. So a foot, Tremblant to Jay Peak to Stowe to Snow Ridge and Mount Washington. Those would be the high points. And potentially still 8 to 10 Sugar Bush, Mad River, Whiteface, and then less everywhere else. All right, guys, so we'll end on the big map here across the west. Lots to look forward to in this period. Finally going to bring in some colder air. And again, that's really going to help the snow production across a lot of the west and the high mountain areas. All right, guys, that's the On to Snow Before You Go forecast. Just as a reminder, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you get notified when my latest forecasts come out. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. Take care.